Tom, you live a stone's throw away from the Breslin. You intermingle with no lack of Spartans, and I want to call on your expertise. You were on Press Pass the other night talking about Michigan State. We're going to do it at length here tonight.
Yeah, I love talking about Michigan State because it's near and dear to my heart. It's the most important athletic event that happens in the entire year to me, which Michigan fans will like roll their eyes. Like, who gives a rip about Michigan State? I mean, that used to be the kind of reaction I got. Maybe not so much lately. I think Michigan State has gotten Michigan attention in an angst kind of way, and the tunnel incident last year certainly added, put a little gasoline on the fire and other things, and just the way this rivalry has gone. But yeah, I'm Press Pass with Jack Evling and Rico Beard, and we talk just like we do on Wolverine Live. We talk football year round. It's big deal. It's a college emphasized show, and we were talking about the Michigan schedule, and the question was asked, when am I actually really going to know if this Michigan team is legit? And that's, I think I mentioned this in past telecasts here. I think we could find out if Michigan's bad at any time if they throw up, if they have a bad outing and they lose to an inferior opponent, then they're not that good. But to determine how good they are, I cited we're not going to know until November 11th, and that means kind of glossing over road matches at Minnesota, at Nebraska, Purdue at home, Indiana at home, and then at Michigan State, October 21. I glossed over that because I think, as I said on the telecast, for the first time following this series since 1964, emotionally, I am as least worried going into the Michigan State game in East Lansing since the 1983 game that George Perles's first year when Michigan shelled Michigan State 42-0.
And that is something that you hinted about on the Wolverine Live before, talking about your relative lack of concern about Michigan State this year. And that immediately gets my attention because Tom Crawford, as someone who gets the emotional back and forth of this rivalry, understands that Michigan State always comes in with that chip on its shoulder, understands that this is their Big Ten championship game. This could be their national championship game in terms of how they approach it. It catches my attention when Tom Crawford, who usually is on the side of saying, okay, but remember how emotional this is and how those things can play into it, says, I'm not as concerned this year. Tell me some of the whys behind that.
Well, I mean, I look at the whys when I look at history, because when I look at, I can remember virtually every score, every all the circumstances of all these games since, like I said, for almost 60 years. Okay. And there's something that stands out whenever Michigan State beats Michigan. They have an extraordinary effort from one of their skill guys stands out. When you go back, I mean, multiple decades. When you go back to, let's just throw out Eddie Smith. Okay, in 1978, the big upset, 24-15. He threw for like 260 yards. He ran for another 50. I mean, he was dynamite. Okay, against Michigan and
right.
around, and that was just one of those standout performances. I mean, you think of another game, 87, Lorenzo White. Okay, he ran crazy. Plex Burris in the 99 game had a huge game at receiver. T.J. Duckett in the 2001 game ran over Michigan. Let's go more recent. Remember Ricky White in the 2020 game when virtually nobody was there? This guy he had a huge game. And then obviously Kenneth Walker Jr. in 2021. So what happens is, those are everybody's a skilled player, but the quote unquote skilled player position, the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, and this year's skilled players for Michigan State, I look at them and Trey Mosley at wide receivers, their best. I mean, and I'm not poking at anybody. I'm just saying I've never seen a weaker set of skilled players from Michigan State than this year. And so I don't have that. Who's that guy? Unless they get some portal guy, another Kenneth Walker or something. I mean, who's that guy that we're not aware of that is just going to, take over the game? Among other reasons, there's a lot of other reasons why I'm not worried about the game. A lot of it has to do with Michigan, all the stuff we talk about every week about
Sure.
how deep they are. And then the other thing is as I just mentioned, I think earlier in our opening, they got more angst towards Michigan State, and we'll probably delve into that as we get into this discussion more
Sure.
than ever. Like finally they get it. We all need to hate those guys in East Lansing. I mean, and it's like this kind of aloofness, arrogance that the Michigan program has taken when looking at Michigan State. That's gone now. I think the angst and the anger and the venom is there now.
Mhm. So, in other words, Michigan can channel what happened last year into, okay, this is just every bit as personal for us as it is for Michigan State. Because let's face it, I think at times they wanted to look at the historical record, understand that they had a very sizable advantage on Michigan State, and maybe not give Michigan State as much of the time of day in terms of their focus. But you have the tunnel incident. You have guys on the Michigan team ambushed and attacked and hurt after a game, not on the field, not anything in the course of play, but in the Michigan tunnel. And maybe Michigan can take that, and all of a sudden it is okay. Whatever anger Michigan State brings into this, whatever chip on the shoulder, Michigan can match it because of what happened a year ago.
Yeah, but I'm going to go back to Big Ten Media Days last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's when I know for the very first time at a Big Ten Media Days, Michigan players mentioned Michigan State, how much they got to beat Michigan State. Okay, I mean, the year before they said we got to beat Aiden Hutchinson. We got to beat Ohio State. Okay, and so they came out and said they declared. I mean they declaration they got to beat Ohio State. Last year was declaration they had to beat Michigan State as well as Ohio State, right? But
Sure.
at 2021 game in East Lansing, I really think that was the straw that broke the camel's back, whatever, on this. That's when they finally, to me, that's when this program said, okay, we're better than them. Yeah, they had this transfer portal guy that went off on us and such, but we had that game. We had the freaking game. Sanders still catches that touchdown pass. They're up by 15. They had the game. And I think that they were just so disgusted with themselves losing that game when they were better than Michigan State. It didn't affect them winning the Big Ten title and getting to the CFP, but still, it's like they should not have lost that game. And there's some questionable calls, obviously, in that touchdown and all that stuff that Hutchinson, scored on that fumble, but that was not, that was over all this overruled stuff. I think that irked him as well. So that was the game, and so that's a starting point, I think, moving forward. And then you throw the gasoline on the fire with the tunnel incident, and then
Right.
just all the animosity. I think that's I think there's it's got that's an arch rival right now. Maybe not to the Ohio State level, but it's up there.
Do you expect to see any differences in approach from the not the players, but officials around this game, Michigan State personnel, whomever, security, any extra security for this particular game, given what happened last year?
Oh, without question. I mean, I think the tunnel situation at Spartan Stadium, which is similar, they got the same tunnel situation
Right.
as it's not doesn't come out the 50-yard line, it comes out on the north side of the north entrance is the tunnel entrance at Spartan Stadium. So I think that's going to be heavy surveillance and orchestration of with referees and maybe even security personnel when they come out and all that stuff. I mean, there's high alert on that. As far as the fans, yeah, I think I mean, I think when Michigan bus arrives and things like that, there might be noticeable more security protecting the players coming in. But there's one aspect of it that I think I'm not saying it didn't delete this animosity from the tunnel incident, but I think following the horrific shooting at Michigan State last year in February, and then how the University of Michigan was so supportive and paid tribute to Michigan State with the rock, and then you were there at Chrysler for the basketball game, and Michigan State people generally are appreciative of that. And that was a horrible time, and it's like everybody kind of put their swords down in the rivalry, and I don't know if that's going to have a residual effect of simmering it down Michigan State towards Michigan. But quite honestly, once that game starts or once that game
Yeah.
draws closer, that's going to go away.
I was going to say, I would not bet on uh, especially if Michigan brings Devin Bush back for the arms
Yeah.
length walk on the field by Michigan
Yeah,
State.
yeah. There's been things go both ways that have stirred the pot on this thing, and I personally like the fact that it's been prioritized. I think it's the best football basketball rivalry in intercollegiate athletics. I really do. I mean, over maybe not this next year in basketball, and we'll talk about that later. But I'm saying that when you look over the past 15, 20 years, let's just say past 15 years, whatever, let's go back to when Beeline came to Michigan and turned that thing around in 2011 or 2011. So you're talking 12 years, last 12 years. It's the best football basketball rivalry in college sports, in my opinion, where they're relevant in both sports. The games mean a lot. There's electricity in the air, animosity in the air, and the whole bit. So, yeah, I think I like it myself.